Hi, my name is Greg Canty, and I'd like to welcome you to the Win Happy podcast. I love chatting to people from all walks of life about their lives and their careers, about the choices they make along the way to pursue their happiness, and what winning actually means to them. I hope you enjoy these conversations as much as I do. Thanks for listening. On today's podcast, I chat with Paul Ruane, our head of brand, who's responsible for the new hot off the press rebranding of Fusion. Graphic designers are a strange breed, and on this episode, I tried to get to know Paul a little bit better and find out exactly what he means when he talks about your brand and why that matters so much. Let's hear from Paul. Paul Ruane, a huge welcome to the Win Happy podcast.
Thanks very much.
And it's a huge, gigantic occasion because it's episode number 300.
Wow.
Yeah, it is wow, isn't it?
Yeah. People are still listening to it. That's good, isn't it?
Yeah. And excluding my mother, I've realised she doesn't listen to them. She did listen to the one that she was on.
Of course.
That's typical, isn't it? You know, everyone being that kind of bit selfish and everything. Really, really bad.
You can't say that about your mother.
Yeah, of course I can. No, she's fantastic. I love podcasts, and it was a simple idea, I don't know, give or take 6 years ago. I love the format. I love conversations with people. And the thing I always felt was that you have conversations with people that you really like, and they're kind of precious, but they're kind of gone then. And, you know, you find yourself, God, that was a really valuable conversation. And in particular, if you can be a bit precise about it, you learn so much. So we're going to learn so much about you, Paul. And just
Okay.
Yeah. Now, our journey with you, this is why I chose you for episode number 300, was that at the beginning of my kind of fusion journey, I'd met the lovely Deirdre at the end of 2000. In 2001, we had this crazy idea to take an event on tour around the country, a glamorous fashion and beauty event. We got the idea from Deirdre's work with the Rosa Tralee, and we were going to take it on tour. One or two people, like Michael Doherty in VIP magazine, said, if you ever bring that thing to life, bring it to me and we'd be interested in getting involved or whatever. It was always an idea. And then I know Deirdre told me she was speaking to this pal of hers who was in Tralee as a graphic designer. I'm not sure at what part of your career you were at that stage. And I remember you presenting what your interpretation of what we were about to do in terms of brand identity. And I think the power of design for me just changed at that moment. It went from being an idea in your head to being a real thing. It was a brand the minute you presented that to us. We had an idea and we had a name, but it became a brand and it became a thing. We had done nothing. We had no venues booked, we had no models booked. It was still an idea, but it became a real thing when the logo was presented. And we've been on a long journey with you, and which brings us to today. So what we might do between now and the end of the conversation is join the dots for people. So before I go any further, the thing I ask all of my guests is, who the hell are you and where did you come from?
I am Paul Ruane. Originally, I'm from Ennis in County Clare. I went to go to college in Tralee when I was 17, and I've been there ever since. I studied computer programming in college, which was horrendous because you could spend weeks writing code for a program, and if a full stop was in the wrong place, the entire thing wouldn't work. So it was way too restrictive, and there was no flexibility and creativity, and there was no scope to do anything out of what had to be done. So it just wasn't for me. I realized that. So I went to get a job in the design and graphics industry and learned everything from there. I started working with a guy who's probably well known in the business industry, Jerry Kennelly, and he owned Stockbite, a company that produced royalty-free images for designers and for the design and print and creative industry. Stock photos, people call them. And I learned more in a year and a half working with him than I think I could have in 5 years of a college degree. And both from a production point of view and the design point of view, like it was everything. It was from the creative side right down to the actual business and commercial side of things. So it was fantastic, and I just realized then this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And then I just approached a printing company, and I was always doing design projects on my own time. And I said, I'd love to work with you as a designer, and showed them a few stuff that I had worked on, and they took me on, and my design career started from there. That was, 23 years ago, maybe 23 years ago.
That's all well and good. And we know all the software is so good, and the software's got easier and easier to use down through the years. But obviously, you need that taste and that skill for designing in the first instance. So, as a young lad in your family at home, was there any creativity out of mum and dad? What did they do?
Yeah, both my parents were oil painting artists.
Were they?
Yeah, all their lives. So, as far as I can remember, as far back as I can remember as a child, there was always canvases with paintings being started or halfway through or being finished. My mom used to do landscape painting, like famous landscape scenes and things like that, and my dad was a brilliant portrait artist. So so there's definitely in the family and in the blood. And my brother then is a brilliant artist as well, not professionally or anything, but just brilliant artist. For his Leaving Cert, he did all the other subjects, the sciences and the maths and all those kind of things, physics, and he did art as a non-curricular subject, as an extra subject on his own time. And it was the only one that he got an A+ in for his Leaving Cert. So he has it as well. So yeah, there was always that creative side, but I was always into the more technical side of it. I loved mechanical drawing and technical drawing through secondary school. My dream was to be an architect. That's what I always wanted to be, but didn't work out that way.
Were mum and dad commercial artists?
They would sell them for locally or for as parts of groups of artists, or they would hang them in restaurants and hotels, and you'd sell them there in the artist's name and the price would be on it. So they would sell them like that. And my dad used to do commission portraits for people, for like politicians and GAA players and things like that. Yeah.
Was that a career for them?
No.
So what did they work at?
My dad was a financial controller with Airianta in Shannon Airport.
Oh dear.
Yeah, and my mom did lots of different types of jobs throughout her life.
Yeah. Doesn't it show you with kids, if you're surrounded by stuff, you're soaking all of it up?
Yeah.
When the young musician is a good guitarist or whatever, then you find out what did mum and dad do. And if you're immersed in that, if you wake up every day and there's someone in the corner with a canvas and paint and they're doodling away without having to sit you down and give you lessons, you're actually immersed in it.
Yeah, absolutely. I have an 8-year-old daughter now, and she loves the artistic and creative side of things. She loves it. She just really, really likes it. When she has free time on her own, she'll go and do that rather than go playing computer games or stuff, So we've made sure to put a big desk that she can do all her art and crafts on, and have shelves next to, create a whole station in the playroom that she can just do the creative and artistic stuff, just to encourage it and to let her have that freedom. Yeah.
What's her name?
Leah.
That's a nice name. I presume as a young lad, were you doodling the whole time? Were you doodling? Were you painting? What were you doing?
Yes, absolutely, yeah. I can always remember drawing and doing art competitions. I remember in primary school, I won a category in the local credit union art competition, and I thought it was the best thing ever. I thought it was amazing. I think actually that, and I've never thought about this until this very moment, but I think that might have sparked off the whole buzz and excitement I get from design and creative stuff, because that competition, my picture was held up in front of a whole crowd of a room of people, and it was put up on the wall of the credit union, and I was so proud, and I got such a buzz and excitement. I was only 8 or 9 or something, but I still get that to this day when I design a brand identity or an advert or a poster or anything creative at all for a client that they're using for their campaign, and you see it out in the public in a newspaper or on TV or on a billboard, whatever it is, you still get that real excitement going, oh, I did that. And you get that sense of pride and buzz. I love it. Yeah.
It's validation as well, though, isn't it? It's someone or some process that says you're good at this. And of course, there's a rush then, and you won a prize or whatever. But it's someone saying you're good at this. And we always like that feeling. So the importance of encouraging anyone towards something. And then as a young lad in school, when you're trying to figure out what job you want to do, how is it you were drawn not to, I know you were talking about tech drawing and everything else. In your head was painting and art and all that, was that just not a profession? So when it came to locking into something, did that not even come onto your radar?
No, not really, because as I said, I'm very technical minded, very structured, and things have to be aligned and balanced, and that's why I think I was drawn to technical drawing and architecture, because it's very detailed and things have to be in the right place, and so the idea of being like an artist, if you gave me a canvas now and a set of paints and brushes, I would freak out. I wouldn't know where to start. I wouldn't know how to create something like that. I would need to know in my mind what I'm doing first before I do it. Whereas my brother or my parents would just start working on the canvas and come up with something amazing. So that idea was never really an option for me. That's why I went into the computing side of things, because it was more scientific. But now I managed to find a way of merging the two together, with the computer side of things and the creative side of things. So.
But do you think you might do that? If someone presented you with a canvas and paints, and obviously it's not your natural way now because you haven't done that in a long time, do you think it's something you could do?
No, I don't. No,
Not a chance.
No, I don't think it should be any good. Okay. Unless it was very geometric and very kind of Art Deco style, maybe.
Yeah.
But no.
And you're sitting in class, and for whatever reason, the teacher has totally and utterly lost your attention. Where do you go in your head?
I hated school. I hated secondary school, especially. I just really didn't like it. So any free thoughts that I had were going to, how do I get out of this? When can I go home? What will I do when I go home? Yeah. It was mostly that, yeah.
Should art be compulsory?
I think definitely some creative part of education should be compulsory. Yeah, I do. But there's lots of different ways that people can use their creativity or get that side of their personality out. But I don't think you should make it compulsory, no. I think you have a love for it or an interest for it, or you don't. Some people are very technical or science-minded, or some people are creative or artistic. And I don't think you should try and force them into one or the other. But they should have the opportunity to try it and sample it if they want to. They should definitely have the opportunity to try it, yeah.
Because I know in my time, and maybe it's changed since, but anything arty in school was that was like a DAS subject.
Yeah.
It wasn't really taken seriously or given a lot of weight to it. And I just wonder, in your case, and maybe a lot of people, might that be the reason why you might have a blind spot towards it being a career? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think when I was in school, those kind of careers didn't exist, or they weren't real. I remember even my dad saying to my brother, "You should be doing science now because you're very good at it," and he was very good at it. You should go into science. It's a good career, and there could be lots of different things that you like, and whereas he loved art and that was his passion. But I think back then there wasn't that as a career path. Now it's totally different. There are so many ways you can get into the industries, but back then it just wasn't. So yeah, he ended up doing environmental science for 4 years and absolutely hated it. And turns out now he's a graphic designer as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After 4 years of environmental science. Wow. Yeah. That is the problem, isn't it? Shoving someone into the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And in terms of your choices along the way, were mum and dad nudging you towards anything, or was it just?
No, not really. Not really. When I came down, when I was starting off my career as design, I was left to my own devices. I was very independent. I just went and did my own thing. I knew what I wanted. I knew I was naive as well, I suppose. But I think it was great to be naive because I had no fear and I didn't mind what people said or thought. Like even starting out in the early days when I did start to become a designer, I would go to companies and speak to senior management there. I was only 22, 23. I was very naive. But I would go to them believing, I can do this for you, and having that self-belief and that fearlessness was brilliant because you weren't afraid of what they were going to say. Whereas now it's very different. You feel like you need to be more careful, but then you've nothing to lose.
Yeah.
You were young, ambitious, just go for it. Just go for it, why not?
Fearless.
Yeah. Like with yourselves when you were starting that event.
Jeepers almighty.
Yeah.
And your graphic design education, I know you didn't go to a course in a college, but you had to educate yourself. Mm-hmm. What did you do?
Myself.
Yeah.
Self-taught. And this is a real bone of contention for me as well over the years. And, when you're applying for contracts or projects with bigger organizations and government organizations and all this kind of thing, they ask for the qualifications and they ask for all these. But I mean, I've built a very successful business. I have so many clients under my belts that I've been working with for years and years. I've done so much great stuff and never once in my entire 20 years have I been asked for qualifications. They just want to know that you're good at what you do, that you can produce what they need and that it's going to be of benefit to them. And you're judged by your work and you as a person and what you're like to work with and what you can deliver for them. So I've never in 20 years been asked for it. So my education was basically learning on the job, having that sponge of a mind to learn as much as I can because I want this to be my career, and learning everything I could, talking to all the right people and basically offering to go in workplaces for free if I had to, just to get the experience and get to know the industry and the business. And that's where I came from. And every job, then every client project, every single thing I did, you learn something on every project. So the education is never ending really. You learn something new all the time.
When did you start? How many years ago was it?
23, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. 23, and then I officially went out as a not as a freelancer, started out on my own, started up a business on my own when I was 22, I think so. Yeah, 23 years ago.
So at that point in time, was it manual sketching or were we full on computers at that stage? Or
yeah, full on computers, yeah. Still working on Macs. So yeah, I was working in a printing company as their designer, and I saw a lot of work coming in to be printed that were coming from designers. They weren't the clients directly coming in. They were the clients bringing in the files that they had paid designers to do. So I saw that there's obviously designers out there who are getting paid to do this design work and then sending it to the printers. So I wanted to do that. So yeah, I bought a little iMac, the green bubble ones. Remember those? The CD drive in the front? Yeah, I bought one of those, a colour printer, and bought some Argos furniture, rented a really cheap small office space, put a sign over the door and started from there.
Where was that?
Yeah, in Tralee, in Blennerville, just outside Tralee.
Yeah.
And one of my very first projects in the early days was Deirdre from Fusion and Greg Canty from Fusion on their event. And so it was great. I was really eager to do it well and do it right. And, I knew it would help me and build my profile and career as well. So,
and hustling for business and all that kind of thing, did that come easy to you? Or?
No, absolutely not. Then it was literally yellow pages, businesses in your local area, ring them one by one by one by one, try and get meetings where you could, try and sell over to one. That was it. That was the way of getting new people. And then every one that you got, that would be a referral to somebody else. Yeah. And then you get more work out of that and it would grow from that. But that was your marketing, yeah. Sorry, we did a new business feature in the local paper as well, which was good idea because it got out to everybody in Kerry to see, and beyond, I think.
Okay, so there's this young lad who comes into you. He's no formal qualifications in the industry. He's just learned himself how to do all of this stuff. And of course, day one, when he comes in your door and he's selling your services and everything else, if you haven't heard of him before, it's like, well, can I see examples of your work and all that kind of stuff? And who do you work with? What clients? It's tough going when you don't have the portfolio and all that kind of thing. You need people to believe in you. So there's going to be a few young bucks listening to this who are at the beginning of whatever they're doing, without portfolios, without lots of clients to refer to and all that kind of thing. And in so many respects, they shouldn't pick up any work because they're all the things that people rely on. Why will someone go for a young buck? What is it? From your experience, what was it that people were going, okay, I'll go with you?
Well, if you don't, it's not okay not to have a portfolio.
Yeah.
I was firmly believing that you have to, no matter who you meet or who you're trying to impress, you have to be able to show what you can do. So if you don't have a portfolio of client work or work that you've been paid for, just do your own projects. Make up something. Make up fake business and do a whole identity and ad campaign and create a portfolio from nothing. You have to be able to show that you can take something from nothing to something that you can actually put out into the public. You have to be able to show that you can do that. So it's not an excuse not to have a portfolio. Yeah.
So you mightn't have the big bank of clients or whatever, nice names that can convince someone. And who was your first client?
Gosh, I actually can't remember. Oh, I think it was a restaurant in Killarney, actually. I started the business actually with a friend of mine, a girl called Catherine. I think I was a bit nervous and scared to do it all on my own, so we did it as a partnership at the start. A few years later, she obviously went her own way and I continued on. But it was a friend of hers that was opening a restaurant in Killarney and they needed a logo and signs and menus designed and all that kind of stuff. So that was it. We took that on as a project and we went in, took photographs, designed up logo options, menu designs, all these kind of things. And it happened and she loved them and she used them and it was in the actual physical restaurant and used, so that was cool.
And Paul, that whole process of listening to someone's idea, like what we did, and trying to understand what was in our head, but what we were trying to do, and then going away and bringing that to life, and then presenting it, the kind of scary moment as to how someone's going to feel about it, which is very subjective anyway, which I think what you do is amazing. What's your process around all that?
Listening first and foremost, listening to what the project is or the client wants or that they think they want. Most of the time they don't realise what they want until they're showing it. But they know exactly what they're trying to get across or how they're trying to communicate it. So it's listening very carefully to that. But then you say it's very subjective. I would look at it as every job I work on, you have to be totally objective and outside. It doesn't matter what I like or what you like or what the client likes. I've worked with some people over the years and, they want floral designs and vibrant colours and all that, but what they're actually doing is for a doctor's surgery or an accountancy firm. It just doesn't work. It's just not right. But because they like it, they think that should be their identity. And it's trying to convince them that it's actually not what you like, it's what the audience is going to think when they see it. That's basically it. It's the perception that you're creating and how people are going to see it and how they will think about it. Yeah. So the process is a lot of listening and then trying to take all that and present that into something that can actually be used in a commercial way that gets the message across and that will appeal to the people they're trying to appeal to. So I don't go sketching by hand on paper. Sometimes I do for a logo. Sometimes I could be sitting at home watching anything on the TV and something will come into my head and I will sketch it down and say, that'll make a nice logo, and then draw it on the computer the following day. Sometimes that happens, which is nice moment.
Because in a way, the logo or the identity, the brand identity, it has to do a job. That thing that you see on a building, on your hotel, or on your website or wherever, it has to do a job, doesn't it? And it has to do a job for you, the business owner. But obviously the job is with the audience, you know, be it a politician or be it a charity or an accountancy firm. It has to do a job for all of those audiences. So you're saying it's not subjective?
No, I don't think it is subjective. I think it's objective rather than subjective. Yeah. So it's taking a step back from it and thinking, okay, how are people going to see this? Or, you know, that's what branding is. It's perception and reputation. So it's creating the right perception. What do people think of it? How are they going to feel about your business when they see this, or they see your sign, or they see your ad, whatever it is? How are they going to react to that, or what do they think of it? Or it's managing your reputation. So it's being objective. And I see it so many times as well, especially with businesses who are owned by, you know, the owners of a business. They're so deeply involved and personally connected to it, and it's so emotional for them because they've started it from the ground, and they've been part of it from the very beginning. So it's trying to get them to take a step back and look at it as an outsider and think, all right, okay, maybe just because I love this now isn't doing me any favors, and it's not going to get me to where I want my business to be. So you have to get them to that stage, and you have to bring them along on the journey and you know, make them feel at ease and make them feel comfortable that this is the right thing. This is the right thing. If you're trying to get to this level, this is what you need to do. So
it sounds to me, Paul, like part of what you're doing, besides the execution of that task that they've asked you to do, is you nearly have to lay the groundwork for them. You're preparing them for what you're about to present to them in a way. You know, you're trying to educate them as part of your process.
Yeah, absolutely. Like before you even get down to designing something or getting into the creative side of it, you have to get them to a stage where they know what they currently have isn't working anymore or isn't right anymore. So to get them into that mindset that, okay, something is going to happen or change has to happen, if they're changing, or if it's something new that it has to be a certain way. But yeah, you do have to work on the psychological side of things first before you can even think of looking at anything visual.
Like it's an obvious thing if you're starting something brand new.
Yeah.
I'm creating a business, so I need an identity. You know, that might even be a name in some cases.
Yeah.
Do you do the whole name creation and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, completely, yeah. Do the name completely, yeah. And that's a whole project in itself, because some people will say, oh, I've thought of this name. This is brilliant, isn't it? That's a great name. Let's go with that. But then you do a bit of research into it and you find out it's the name of a competitive company in a different country, or something totally inappropriate in some other country, or that it's registered in Europe, totally copyrighted. You can't use it, you know. So you have to do all that groundwork before launching a new name and a new brand as well. Yeah, people don't think of that side of things, but it can be very costly if they don't do it right.
Making sure the domain names are available and all that kind of thing. In a way, it's like I'm bringing a new child into the world, but I need you to name it for me.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. I've no problem doing that. Yeah.
What does the baby look like? It's going to be born in a few months, and we'll reveal it to the whole world. And if you have the opposite, have you had clients coming to you and they're starting a new business, they're all excited, and they tell you what it's all about, and they give you the name, and you're like, oh God almighty.
That's crap.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had that as well. Yeah, you have to be sensitive, obviously, and not offend anybody, but you have to make them see that, well, this is why you're coming to me, you know, because I can look at this objectively and I can look at it from the outside. Why are you coming to me and paying me money for my experience and knowledge and expertise and advice if you're not going to listen to any of it and you're stuck on this one thing that isn't right? So, you know, there's a bit of cajoling and convincing to do in those scenarios, but
because once you go live, it's on your website, it's on your building, it's on all your literature.
Yeah,
and it lives for a long time.
Yeah, and you spend thousands. Yeah. You spend an awful lot of money on everything, you know. And then if you find out 6 months down the line that you've spent all this money launching a business and you never did the groundwork in the first place, or never did that bit of research, you have to waste all that money.
One of my favourite little sayings, which I think I came up with myself, was never write a check to make yourself look bad.
Yeah.
You know, poor design, get loads of whatever that thing is printed and lousy logo, awful website, it looks terrible, it doesn't match the business, you're making a mistake, and then you're going to throw loads of money getting loads of people to see it. And it's something fighting against you then, isn't it? We always talk to clients about, it was an expression we came up with at an early stage. And to be honest, for me, if I take it from the days when we spoke to you first around catwalks, you know, I kind of got very, very quickly that it needed to look the part. And our introduction from a fusion point of view into designers, me working with Dee and stuff, when clients would come to you and they basically would say, listen, we want you to promote us. We want loads of people to get to see me and my organisation and whatever I'm doing. And exactly like what you were saying, you have to do your bit of research to get a good understanding of it. And we used kind of go, wow, do you really want to promote this and how it looks? I would have said that sometimes was being subjective. And we used to talk about a client not being PR ready. You know, you're not PR ready. You need to go off and talk to a great designer, go down the road there to Paul Ruane. You brief him about your business and all that kind of stuff. And when you look the part, then you're set. You're all set then, and then come back to us. Then we'll try and get loads of people to come and have a look. Because now you look the part and that works. The business of being a designer, and you talk about the parts that everyone has in their head. You're either the logical person or the very creative. And I think creative people are renowned for being shocking business people. Mm-hmm. You ran a business for a long time.
Yeah.
And I know when I kind of worked the timing on it, you're talking about over 20 years. We had a whopper of a recession in the middle of all of that. How was that for you? And what was the journey of the business?
I think I'm one of those rare breeds of people who is both good with numbers and financials and business side of things, as well as being creative. And, you know, I totally agree with what you're saying. The normally really creative, artistic, brilliant people like that hate the business side of it or the money side of it. I personally loved it. Accounting was one of my favourite subjects in school as well. But
Paul, you are a freak.
I know. I am a rare breed, definitely. But yeah, just like at the start, like you weren't sure how much to charge, how you should be making profits, and you know, all those. It takes a few years to get your head around that, like, and get a grip on that. But at the start, you're so eager for work and portfolio that you kind of do it for a lot less than you should. Really, you just do it for a fee to get the job done, so you can use it to try and get other work. And it kind of built slowly like that. But after like so many years, halfway through, maybe 5 or 6 years or whatever, you start to see how much the clients appreciated the work that you were doing and how much benefit it was to them, that they were actually making revenue and sales, and it was helping their businesses and their brands grow by the work that you were doing for them. So then you start to believe in yourself and say, well, there's actually real value in what I'm doing. It's not just making something look pretty, it's helping them with their business and their brand and their reputation and their sales and all those kind of things. So you have to then start putting a proper value on it and realizing, well, actually what I'm doing is worth a lot of money and is valuable. So then it takes time to get to that, but then you just have to be straight up and say, listen, this is what I charge. I know I can do a good job for you. I know it'll be worth a lot for your business. This is what I charge. It's fairly reasonable in the greater scheme of things. And just stick to that. And if they try and fight you or beat you down or say, oh, well, we only have €500, you just have to politely say, I don't think we're the right fit, or whatever it is, you know, because there is value in it. Yeah, so everything was going great, like throughout the career. I had just got my dream office, which was this big glass-walled office with wooden floors and recessed lights, and it was beautiful. And spent a lot of money on getting the office ready because everything was great. It was going really good.
It's like an episode of Mad Men, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. I had 6 people working with me. We had a big team, and then recession hit, and it was like absolutely the worst period of my life that I can ever remember. It was just horrendous, and it affected everything, professionally, personally, emotionally, psychologically, everything. It was horrendous. And I think only people who were running a business and had all those pressures and responsibilities through that time will appreciate that, as I know you do. But yeah, it was really, really tough, but just slogged through it, went weeks and months, sometimes longer, without paying myself a penny, without barely having money for the basic day-to-day expenses and living. And like, it sounds like war times out to say it, but like even food, some days it was like, do I have enough money for this? Like, some days, it didn't last for long, thank God, but some days were like that. It was that bad at certain stages, but you just got through it, just kept battling through, cutting back where you could, talking to all the financial people and just doing what you could and got through it. And thankfully I did. I saw a lot of businesses around me in the same industry close and, disappear. But yeah, I'm I was one of the longest lasting ones in the industry and kept going, came out the other side and learned a lot from it. But it was horrific, yeah.
It was like wartime, and the thing that was highly valued by clients and everything else wasn't valued anymore. And even if it was valued, they didn't have the money to pass that value on to you and require your services.
Yeah.
You're worried about the employees who are your team, who are dependent on you for their livelihoods and everything else. And it's a huge weight. And I know you've got a huge conscience, so that's a big weight on you at that time. And a weird thing as well that we discovered was that the taxman was biting at your heels at the same time when things had tightened up.
Yeah.
Positivity in the country had disappeared. It was super negative.
Yeah.
People who had money got fearful and they retrenched. So the few that didn't have the capability of still doing things weren't doing anything. It was so bad. And exactly what you said. I remember listening to Louis Copeland. He was on one of the very early episodes of the podcast. He was a big hero of mine. Just heard him being interviewed on the radio, and they were asking me, Louis, how are you going to get through all of this? And he said, yeah, get up earlier, roll the sleeves up and get stuck in. So that's my little Monday morning thing. Roll the sleeves up, get stuck in, have a great week. And that's all you were able to do every single day. And yeah, you just pray to God. Business was going to come from somewhere and all of that kind of thing. So I know, fast forward, you decided, for whatever reason, I'm just going to stick to myself. The clients loved working with you personally, and I think you got closer to what you love doing by just retrenching, and I think you were pretty much nice life, working from home and all that kind of thing. So we're sort of fast forwarding, and we found ourselves at the beginning of last year. And in the meantime, throughout all of those years, we built our own internal design team, and that was all pretty cool. And it was terrible timing. We built up a little team, and one person went out on their own, lovely Martina, and she was on the podcast 2 episodes ago. Lovely, lovely girl. She's doing her own little baby mementos and all that kind of stuff. In the spirit of win happy, she wanted to win and be happy doing her own thing, which was cool. And we had another lovely lad, Andy, who went touring Mexico with his girlfriend. And Lolly, our head of design, was off on maternity leave. So we were like, okay, we needed to maintain that business. And scratching our heads and scratching our chins, and Deirdre was saying, I wonder what Paul is up to. You're like, you mean the guy we dealt with like 300 years ago?
21 years ago, yeah.
Yeah. So we had a conversation, and I think we kind of aligned. Yeah. Maybe perfect timing for where we were both at that stage. And we were talking to you then about graphic design. And you were like, no, it's different. What was the conversation you had with us?
Yeah, I started out 23 years ago as a graphic designer. And as the years went on, I realized, okay, graphic design is the tool that I use in the day-to-day work, but it's not actually what I do. What I do is help clients build their brands. So brand building and brand development, that's what I do. Graphic design is the tool that I use to do that. So back then, that's then when I kind of changed how I described myself and what I did. It was brand design and brand development and brand consultancy. And that then it makes people see it in a totally different vein, and it holds much more value than just graphic design. So that's where that conversation kind of went. And I said to Yi, yeah, I think what Yi do and all the things that Fusion does, and that's why I decided to get involved as well, is because everything you do, from a press release to a photo call to an event to a social media post to building a website, anything, any form of communication is ultimately for your client's brand, their reputation or their perception. So every single form of that kind of communication is for their brand.
I hope you can join me on part 2, where Paul talks about branding, what it means, when you should rebrand, and what that process looks like. Thank you for listening to the Win Happy podcast, which has been brought to you by Fusion Communications. If you'd like to get in touch, feel free to send me an email at greg@fusion.ie. So until next time, take it easy.